We begin tonight with new developments in a case that we've been covering for years. The state's highest court now reversing a lower court's decision to dismiss the indictments of a Springfield police officer and a local bar owner following an off-duty police brawl outside Nathan Bill's bar 8 years ago. Welcome everyone to Western Mass News at 10 on this Tuesday. I'm Chris Pisano. Western Mass News reporter Maria Wilson joining us live in studio with the latest. Maria.
Chris, I spoke with one criminal justice expert who tells me reversals like this aren't common, but it could be a sign of just how serious the judicial system is taking this case.
But the fact that the higher court, changed the outcome basically does imply that they're taking it seriously enough that there might be, some more serious charges.
Western New England University professor Craig Dutton weighing in on a case 8 years in the making. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court reinstated indictments against a Springfield police officer and Nathan Bill's bar co-owner for their alleged role in covering up a brawl outside the Springfield bar back in 2015. Springfield police officer Derek Gentry Mitchell and Nathan Bill's co-owner Joseph Sullivan are accused of misleading investigators following a brawl outside the Springfield restaurant in 2015, involving a number of off-duty Springfield police officers accused of fighting and injuring 4 men. The incident led to the indictment of 16 individuals, many of whom were Springfield police officers. The pair faced charges including perjury and misleading investigators, which Dutton says are serious accusations.
Those are rather serious charges. Lying in a court of law is a big deal, especially because, our system is kind of contingent on honesty and the truth being made available and presented in a courtroom. And so whenever there's a concerted effort to lie or misrepresent a case, certainly something we take very seriously.
According to court documents, the Commonwealth alleges Gentry Mitchell, who was on duty and responding to calls about the fight, and Sullivan misled Springfield detectives and FBI agents. Quote, according to the Commonwealth, the tangled web of deception by the defendants and others lasted years and included misleading testimony before the grand jury. Western Mass News spoke with Jared Olenoff, who represented the other Nathan Bill's owner, John Sullivan, in a related case. He calls this case a logistical nightmare.
The question is then, where there's one indictment and one charge, how could the jury convict as to any of those and be unanimous as to which false statement they'd be finding the person guilty of?
The court arguing their position in those documents, saying, quote, although each misleading statement could form a separate charge for misleading investigators, the Commonwealth is not precluded from proceeding under one indictment, charging the essential crime of willfully misleading investigators to cover up the off-duty Springfield Police Department's officers' role in the assault of the victims on April 2015. Olenoff says the case could have been presented clearer.
It's going to could be a potentially a difficult task for the judge and the jury at trial to sort all of that out. The better course would have been to say, well, if there are let's say four alleged false statements for misleading the police, okay, we're going to charge four indictments for each alleged false statement.
The Springfield Police Department says Gentry Mitchell has been suspended without pay from the department pending the adjudication of his case. Reporting live in studio, Maria Wilson, Western Mass News.